At sunrise, the blue sky paints itself with golden colors and joyfully dances to the music of the morning breeze. Isn't it amazing how every day we are blessed with such a gorgeous gift from nature? And it is only up to us to wake up and witness it. So, in this class, we will capture this beautiful phenomenon of nature, the sunrise, in our painting using watercolors. So, I will wet the top portion with plain water. So, I am using this mop brush here. You can use any big flat brush or a mop brush which can hold lot of water. So make sure it is very nicely wet by making horizontal and vertical moves. Now that our paper is nicely wet, I will take some lemon yellow and sketch around the sun. So I'm leaving this central portion white and just sketching a circle. So you can see the soft edges as we are doing a wet on wet technique. Now we will take the little darker yellow, that is cadmium yellow, and apply it around the lemon yellow color. So I will nicely blend these two colors. Now I will take some vermilion color. You can also take some orange or a reddish color, and we will paint it around the cadmium yellow. I will also wet the portion below the horizon for our river and the surrounding area. So this is where we will have the sunlight and the reflection of the sun. So I'm just covering the sky and the bottom portion with plain water. Now I'm taking some cadmium yellow and reinforcing our earlier paint. So our background is still wet and the colors are blending beautifully. Now I will spread this color mix over the sky to give the hint of this morning sky which has this golden color. We will spread this over the entire sky and also on the river as we will get the reflection of this beautiful golden light on the river. I'm dropping in a little dark vermilion color here and there to depict the different clouds and the reflection of the sunlight on the clouds. Now I'm picking up the excess yellow color that we have got in the center. So I'm cleaning it with a dry brush, with a clean brush, and just blending the color and putting a little more lemon yellow in the center part. Now I'm taking a clean dry brush and pulling straight lines from the sun. So these will depict the rays of the sun. So go about in a circular motion and pick the colors from the wet surface. So make sure you clean your brush every time you are picking the color so that it is not again going back to the paper. Now I'm taking some burnt sienna. So I will take a light mix of burnt sienna and create the trees which are near the sun. So with the glowing sunlight, we will have the trees which are a bit glowing. So they will not be visible as green near the sun. So I'm just creating these small V shapes to depict our pine trees. Now we will gradually introduce sap green. So I'm taking out some sap green on my palette and we will give this green color to the trees which are away from the sun. My background is still wet, so make sure your background is wet so that we get a soft edges for the trees. So these are the distant trees. So we do not want very sharp edges for them. We just want to give an impression of the trees that are there. Now we will paint the tree that is beside the house. So the top portion of this tree is very near to sun. So we will make it very light with the light burnt sienna. As we move down, we will increase the gradation on this tree. So you can see I'm taking a bit dark burnt sienna for the middle portion and I will introduce green color for the bottom part of this tree. So when you look at this tree from a distance, it will appear that the top portion is receiving maximum sunlight and that is why it is lighter in color and it is sort of glowing. And as we move down, the real green color of the tree is visible and also there will be shadow. So the bottom portion will be darker. So now we will again give the finishing to our background trees and create these V shapes for the fir trees. So as the background is still wet, you can see the color is spreading and we are getting soft edges. So that is what we want for our background trees. They should be having soft edges and should not be very prominent as they are far away. So in the same way, we will paint all the trees and this will create our soft background. Now we are done with the top portion. So let us move to the middle ground. So I'm wetting this little island that we have in the middle ground and also I'm wetting the surface around our house. So I'm taking plain water and applying over these areas. I'm also applying water to our foreground. So this is the area that is closest to the viewer's eyes. So that is why it is called the foreground. Make sure these areas are very nicely wet. Now we will take some diluted sap green and also we will mix some lemon yellow to this because we want a very light shade. So we are creating our grassy land with the light mix of sap green. I'm adding a little darker green on the corners and with my brush I am making some straight strokes to give the feel of grass on the edges of our island. Right now I am using my same size 8 brush. I am making the grass with the tip of this brush. You can also switch to a smaller brush if you feel. So I'm just applying some more water on our foreground area because it must be little dry by now. And now we will again take the sap green mix and apply it to our foreground. Now I'm mixing some indigo to our sap green and dropping in on the wet grass. So this will create an impression of the uneven surface or a little hilly area. Also, I'm wetting our river with plain water. So make sure the entire river is nicely wet. Now I will just drop a very diluted mix of Payne's grey, or you can take any light blue that you have, and we will drop on this wet surface of our river to give the impression of water. So we are dropping this very lightly because the river will mainly have the reflection from the trees and the grass and sun. So I am adding little lemon yellow on the water to depict the reflection of the sun rays. Now I will take out some Payne's grey. So let us work on the little house. So I am wetting the top portion of the house with plain water, and I will drop in a very diluted mix of Payne's grey and burnt sienna. So it will give a very nice earthy color. So I will take this light mix and drop it on the roof of our house. Now I'm taking some burnt sienna and adding another layer on the roof. So you can see we got a very pretty color for the roof. Now I will take some Payne's grey and paint over the extended roof of the house. So I will use this dark Payne's grey and create these little lines on the wet surface of the roof. So it is giving a beautiful demarcation and it is creating a nice texture. Now I will take a light mix of burnt sienna and lemon yellow to paint the rest of the house. So there is no hard and fast rule for these colors. You can vary them as per your liking. Now we will go back to our trees and give them little more finishing touches. So I'm taking some sap green and painting over the tree that is beside the house. Now I will take some yellow and give finishing to the top portion of the tree. So I have switched to size 4 brush now, and I'm taking sap green and creating this little grasses around our house. I'm also wetting this river again because we have to create the shadows. So I'm taking some sap green and dropping it on the river to depict the shadow of the trees that we are going to paint. Also, I'm dropping it around the corners. So this is like the shadow of the grass that is near the river. So I'm doing it on both the sides of the river and just creating this green shadow for all the grass that we will have. I'm dropping in little yellow on the top portion of the river as it is closer to the sun, so the sun rays will be reflecting on the river. Now we will paint the foreground tree. So this tree is starting from the foreground and extending all the way to the middle ground. So similar to our previous trees, we will draw the V-shaped structures and create this pine tree. So we will just create slanting motions and give the effect of this V-shaped pine tree. So the portion of the tree which is on top of the river is still wet. So the color is spreading too much. So we will come back to it later. So that is why I'm painting the remaining tree on the foreground. So I'm just making a little shrub in front of the house and I'm putting little yellow color on top of the shrub. Now we will create few trees in the middle ground of our painting. So again I'm taking some sap green and painting this pine trees in the middle portion of our painting. So you can see how I'm varying the colors of the trees as we are nearing the sun. So everything that is near the sun is bit glowing and has yellowish color. So now we will again create our grass on the banks of the river. So just do some vertical strokes with your brush and create these grass. So again we will follow the same principle. So as we are moving towards the sun, we will make the grass lighter in color by adding little yellow to our green. So as our river portion is bit dry now, so we will create the foreground tree, the remaining part of the foreground tree. So it is still spreading a little. So we will come back to this tree again later. Now I will draw one more tree which is behind the house. So I'm taking a little darker sap green and giving finishing touches to this tree by creating some more strokes and also some dots around the branches. Now I'm taking the liner brush or a rigger brush which has a pointed tip, and I'm taking a mix of burnt sienna and Payne's grey. So this gives us a dark brown color, and I will give the finishing touches on the roof of the house by making some little patterns, some zigzag patterns on the roof. So we will carve out the door and windows of the house using this same mix. So I'm not covering it entirely, I'm just leaving a little highlights as well. So just creating all the outline of the house with this dark mix. So I'm just dropping in this dark brown color on the house, and then I will take a wet brush and blend this color. So you can just make little patterns on the house. So this is completely optional. You can just try different patterns or you can just let it be plain wall. Now again I'm taking this dark mix and creating the fence around the house. So you can see, to give this the fence a perspective of distance, we will create the frontmost fence little larger, and as we move behind towards the house the fence will become smaller in length. So I'm just adding little horizontal lines. So this is like the rope that ties the fence together. Now finally our river is dry. So we will make the middle portion of our foreground tree. So we will make the V-shaped strokes to complete this tree. So I will take a dark mix of green color and give finishing touches to this entire foreground tree. Now I will create a smaller tree beside our main tree in the foreground. Also adding some grass on the sides of the river bank. So this completes the first section of our painting. We have created all the base layer. So let us complete this in the next section. So now let us work on finishing our project. So as you can see, because of the glow from the sun, the area which is near the sun is very glowing and it is light in color. And as we move further away from the sun, we have darker areas, and the trees are darker as we move away, and also we get some reflections which are darker. Also, you can see the river has light reflections near the sun and reflecting the sun rays. Now, let us create a little bush around the house. So, this is behind the house, and we can see a little glimpse of this. So I'm taking some green mixed with lemon yellow to paint the top portion of this bush. Now I'm taking some sap green and creating the grass around our little island and also in the foreground. So this foreground grass will be darker. So we will again come back here and make it little dark. Now we will cover the other edge of our foreground with the grass. So there is no hard and fast rule. You can create more or less grass and it will look beautiful once your painting is complete. So you can add the grass abundantly and Just enjoy the process. So keep making these vertical strokes which are pointed or thinner at the top. I am also adding some grass on the middle portion of our foreground. You can see our foreground is already looking so lush green and pretty. So giving some finishing touches to the grass near the sun. So make sure you're using a light color mixed with yellow when you're painting towards the sun. Now let us give finishing touches to the bush. So I'm just taking some sap green and doing a dabbing motion to create the shadows in the bush. So this will make it look more fuller. Also doing a little bit finishing touches to our trees. Now I have very little paint on my brush, so the brush is as good as dry. So I am just creating these patterns on the grass. So this is the dry brush technique. We don't want too much water on our brush. So once there is less water and you drag the brush, it will create this beautiful patterns on the grass. I'm taking a little dark mix of green by mixing sap green and indigo and creating some shadows on the trees. So the branches of the fir tree will have these dark shadows on the lower side. Now I'm taking a light mix of green and lemon yellow and giving finishing touches to the grass near the sun. Now I'm taking some diluted crimson color and just giving some touches to the trees that are there near the sun. Now I'm taking some cadmium yellow and adding it to the top of the trees and grass to get the glowing effect because of sun rays. I will also apply a little cadmium yellow to our river to give the effect of the glowing sun rays over the river. So you can see we are getting such a beautiful glow on the river by adding the yellow. Now I'm applying some plain water on the river and I will take some sap green and spread this gently. So these will look as the reflection of the trees and the grass. So we will apply this diluted sap green on all the corners of the land as we will get the reflection of the grass on the water. Now I'm preparing a diluted mix of a dark color for the shadows. So I had some purple on my palette and I'm mixing some Payne's grey to it to get the dark color. So this is a bit concentrated. I will mix more water. So this is our light shade that we have, and this will act as our shadow. So I'm creating the shadow for the roof first. Now as we have the sun behind the house, so I will create this slanting shadow of the house. So I'm taking this same dark mix and creating these slant shadows. I will also add the tiny shadows of our fence. So you can see by adding the shadow, the object comes to life and it looks so realistic. So I'm adding some shadows to the tree near the sun, but it looks incorrect as the sun is in front, so the shadows will not be in this direction. So I'm just merging this and creating a texture over the grass. So you can just analyze the painting and see where you feel you should add some more grass. So I'm again taking our shadow mix and creating a shadow below the roof of the house. So there is a second roof to the house. So I'm just creating shadow for that roof and also giving some finishing touches. Now I have some diluted sap green on my brush and I'm splattering it by tapping it on another brush and creating the beautiful splatter effect. So I'm covering the other portion of by a plain paper so that the splatters do not go everywhere and they create the texture on the grass. So you can see we are getting such a beautiful texture on the grass by these splatters. Now I'm taking some burnt umber and just giving a little highlight near the grass. So this is our separation between the land and the river. So I'm just making a little dark. I will also add the burnt sienna to our fence just to make them pop out a little. Now let us add some birds in the sky. So I'm taking a diluted mix of burnt sienna and doing a V kind of motion and just making a line in the center of this V. So this creates our bird in flight. Now I will take my tissue. I'm taking this kitchen towel. You can take any tissue, and I have dabbed it on top of the bird so that it is very faint. And I'm just outline giving the outline again. So the bird is near the sun and it is glowing with the sunlight. So we will follow the same principle and create the birds near the sun very light, and the birds which are away from the sun will be darker. So I will again dab this bird and make it very light so that it gives the impression that the bird is very far away and is barely visible. I will add a few more birds which are a bit darker. So I have used a mix of burnt sienna and indigo. So we are almost done with our painting. I'm just giving a little highlight with burnt sienna to the doors and windows and just a little outline around the house. We can also create a little chimney on top of the house if you wish, but it is completely optional. So you see these little highlights or little touch-ups make so much of a difference to the painting. Just adding few grass shoots near the house. So I've taken some white paint on my brush and I'm just creating little dots on the grass to indicate little small flowers. So these could be the wild flowers that grow on the grass. So now I'm taking some diluted burnt sienna and giving the finishing touches to the corner of the river near the sun. So this is our horizon line where the river finally disappears. I think I can go on and on painting the grass. So we just need to stop somewhere and decide when the painting is done. So I hope you enjoyed creating this, and I really enjoyed exploring this concept of sun rays and countryside with beautiful cottage and trees and river and birds flying in the sky. So let us untape it and reveal our gorgeous creation. Thank you for joining me in this project.